Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem se Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giridharan ki jai, Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. So we'll be joining the class very soon. Anand Jayaraman Prabhu is joining. So,
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. I think Madhumati Mataji is already joined. Hare Krishna. Today it's our pleasure to have Her Grace Madhumati Pushkarni Mataji. Last week we just scratched the nectar of Shikshashtakam, and we'll be continuing with the remaining shlokas, remaining verses in Shikshashtakam, and Mataji will, take us closer to the real teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which he has left during his Antim Leela. Over to you, Mataji. I think Mataji needs no introduction. I think we introduced Mataji last week, so I'm just building on that and just leaving the podium to Mataji to educate us about Shikshashtakam and bring the real nectar that's hiding inside those verses. Thank you, Mataji. Over to you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Yes, last week you had a very generous introduction, so there is no more introduction required. And I'm very thankful that you have invited
Mataji,
me.
can you be a little bit louder because we can't hear?
Yes, sorry. Am I audible now?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay.
Better, much better.
So let's start with some prayers and then we will move to discussing the Shikshashtakam. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtham Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadandikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। अजानुलंबित भुजौ कनकावदातौ संकीर्तनैकपितरौ कमलायताक्षौ विश्वम्भरौ द्विजवरौ युगधर्मपालौ वन्दे जगत्प्रियकरौ करुणावतारौ। योऽन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसुप्तां सञ्जीवयत्यखिलशक्तिधरा स्वधाम्ना अन्यांश्च हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं। नमो विष्णुपदाय। Okay, so please, I seek all of your blessings and prayers that we may be able to speak about this very significant Shikshashtakam, which is the cream and in fact the essence of all Mahaprabhu's teachings. And in the last session, we saw how Mahaprabhu, who appeared on Gaura Purnima, which is also holy, is so significant. Yes, because Mahaprabhu, we saw that on Holi, how the people of Barsana, they are victorious, yes, in this battle of words and colors with the people or the devotees of Nandagam. And with this victory, actually, Mahaprabhu is showing that finally only one thing wins, which is love. Yeah, so Radharani's love for Krishna in the purest sense is uh, is something which Mahaprabhu wanted to really Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that we've been mentioning since last class, wanted to not only taste, but also he wanted everybody to understand this glory. So he gave us this Shikshashtakam, which is a set of 8 verses. And in the last class, we saw the first verse in a bit of a detail. So this was, we discussed about the background of Shikshashtakam, and then we saw that we defined a few terms here, if you all remember: sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, prema bhakti. So these are the 3 levels of devotion which a devotee, an aspiring devotee, he passes through these stages. And then we also saw the 3 ways of acquiring Vedic knowledge, yes, which begins with establishing a relationship, that is sambandha, then goes on to prayojana, which means what to do in that relationship, and finally prayojana, which is sambandha, then abhideya, and then prayojana, which means what is the destination, yes, what is the final outcome of this. So I gave you the example of a car in the very mundane sense. We begin with seeing a car and wanting to acquire it, and then we say, okay, what do I do to acquire it? And then finally we acquire it. So this is more relatable to us, but it is actually for a very meaningful objective, a goal, which we begin with understanding that my goal is Krishna Prema. And I begin to establish that relationship with Krishna through devotees, through the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita literature, yes, and the devotees around. So that is how I establish a relationship, and then I know what I am supposed to be doing, and that is sadhana. Finally, I go to the outcome. This is what we discussed. So let us recite the Shikshashtakam. And what we will do today, last time we recited the entire Shikshashtakam. Today let us recite verse by verse, since we will at least focus the first 5 and recite the remaining 3 also. So let us recite this, and you may recite with me, though you are on mute, but we can anyway recite. चेतोदर्पणमर्चनं भवमहादावाग्निर्वापणं श्रेयः कैरवचन्द्रिकावितरणं विद्यावधूजीवनम् आनन्दाम्बुधिवर्धनं प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतस्वादनम् सर्वात्मा स्नपनं परं विजयते Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. So this first verse is talking about Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. We saw that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, let this Shri Krishna Sankirtana be victorious, be glorious. And why? Yes, and why? We saw that there are 7 beautiful reasons that Mahaprabhu has given us as to why this Shri Krishna Sankirtana, why should it be glorious, and why it is glorious and victorious, right? And so we discussed one by one all of these 7 benedictions. But we just went through them. We did not really get into too much detail. So today also we will see, because of course we have to cover quite a few verses. So let us see how much we can, but to reinforce. So it began with the very first benediction of Cheto Darpana Marjanam. And we saw here that Shri Krishna Sankirtana, yes, the chanting of Krishna's holy names, actually cleanses the heart. And it says mirror of the heart, Darpana. Why is it the mirror? The more we cleanse this mirror, the more we will be able to see ourselves. As of now, I said in the last class, we look at ourselves as this body. And why not? That is all we can see, right? As of now, I can see myself as maybe, a teacher, a mother, a woman, and belonging to a certain class, coming from a certain town, yeah, Kannadiga or whatever, all of these things are very obvious. But what is not obvious is what lies inside or really behind the mirror, which is us, the spirit souls, right? And in Bhagavad Gita, we discussed the whole of second chapter. Krishna is only trying to tell us this, that Arjuna, you're a spirit soul. He starts off with saying Natvevaham Jatunasam. There was never a time when none of these people ceased to exist, which means they always existed. Nor did you ever cease to exist. You were always there. I was always there. You always exist. As how? Not in this body, definitely. So which means we have to recognize ourselves as the spirit soul. And how does chanting of the holy name help us? So I heard a very beautiful uh, you know nice analogy, that when suppose at home, our home is very dirty and we have a guest at home, and we open the door and the guest, you're so embarrassed. So that person, he comes inside or she comes inside, and uh, she sees all this mess, and you say that, oh, I'm very sorry, I'm actually cleaning this up, or I'm moving out, and you say a lot of things. What will this person say? Oh, no problem, doesn't matter, even our house is dirty at times, don't worry, this that, and they go away. Right? They may make a little bit of fun or something like that, and that's it. Why? Because they don't really care enough. But suppose your friend comes home, a very good friend. Immediately, what is the response? How do they respond? They pull up their sleeves and say, come on, let me help you. Isn't it? I'll join in. This is so true. I have moved so many houses. And each time you have a friend there who is willing to go out of his or her way to help you. And Krishna is our best friend. Surudam Sarva Bhutanam. He says, he tells this himself. We accept it or not. He says, I'm your friend. So, through holy names, through Krishna's names, Krishna himself, the holy names begins to clean our heart. Actually take a broomstick and cleans our heart. Because the moment we start chanting, if you have seen, if many of you all would have experienced, it seems suddenly like the dust starts blowing up everywhere. Yes, all kinds of things keep kinds of thoughts. And the cleansing process is going on just as much as you would clean a dusty room and the dust starts blowing up. Leave it to Krishna. Krishna actually cleanses this. Many a times we try to do it ourselves through so many ways. But the way that we should follow is chanting Krishna's names, so that this place becomes clean enough for Krishna to come and reside, right? And that only he can do through his holy names. And that is what Mahaprabhu is telling us. Cheto Darpanam Arjunam, the very first thing. And then the next benediction we spoke about was extinguishes this forest fire of material existence. And we saw last time that each one of us, we feel that we are one glorious exception to a rule. What is that rule? Nobody is happy in this material world. But we feel, oh, I am an exception. I will be an exception. I am going to be so happy because I have the best of everything. And we try. No, it's not true. He may be unhappy, she may be unhappy, but I'm going to be happy. Why? I'm trying. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. We have so many plans to remain happy. Yes, but somehow or the other, it's quite obvious. Krishna says, this is dukkhalayam ashashvatam in the Bhagavad Gita. So it's like saying, taking a spoonful of chili powder into your mouth and it says, oh, it's hot. It is going to be hot. Yes, because you've taken a spoonful of chili powder. Similarly, this world is defined as dukkhalayam. So you can't say, oh, what happened? Yes, it just comes. Misery just comes as in a forest fire. Nobody sets the forest on fire, but still the forest fire automatically comes. And that is why this material world, the miseries are compared to this forest fire. Then none of us invite. these miseries, but they come on their own. This chanting of the holy names is something which will actually extinguish that forest fire. This is like a bottle of honey that one has to open up and taste. Yes, no matter how much we say it's really tasty, you might say, but one has to really open it up and taste. And then we see Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. Then we saw about how chanting of the holy names is all auspicious, Shreyaha. And what does this Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam mean? So here in the translation, it says, glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtana movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. So we have done till here, and I'll come back to reading the translation. It spreads the rays of the benediction moon. Shreyaha Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. Vitaranam is to spread. Shreyaha is auspicious. Now uh, this Chandrika, the significance of moon rays is explained like this. There's a special kind of lotus which blooms in the night. This white lotus blooms in the night. Our heart is compared to that lotus. If you have observed, when we are depressed, when we are sad, or our heart shrinks. Yes, it kind of feels some kind of a constrained. It feels like uh, it has not blossomed, in simple words. But with moon rays, this lotus, it blossoms. And what is this moon rays? It's compared to the chanting of the holy names. So this holy names really is like the moon rays, which is so cool. When this depressed heart, it can actually blossom just like the white lotus. It is so auspicious. And we also saw that this auspiciousness is absolute. It's absolute. How do we understand this? It means that it is auspicious for everybody. We saw that one man's nectar may be another man's poison in this material world, right? Disease is bad for somebody, but it's good for the doctor. We saw this. I'll tell you a little story here. All of us know about Akbar and Birbal, and many of you all probably have heard this story also. So there is a day when Akbar, it's morning, and he has just woken up, and he goes to his balcony to just see outside how it looks. And when he goes outside to his balcony, he somehow or the other slips and he injures himself in his jaw. He gets hurt. And the king, and he getting hurt, so all the ministers and all the people around there, they gather in his palace. The doctor is called and all that. And then the ministers, they ask Akbar, what happened? First thing in the morning you felt like this. There is something inauspicious that happened. They asked the king, did you see somebody there? So the king says, what happened? Who did I see? What inauspicious? He says, there was a washerman who was walking that way. I saw him. So the minister says, that is what it is. This washerman is the cause. He's so inauspicious. So they say he must be punished. And the king says, yeah. Akbar says, yeah. Sometimes. So the washerman is called, and Akbar gives him a death sentence. He says, you are the cause of my injury. You're inauspicious fellow. You don't deserve to live. And this washerman from nowhere, and he goes to Birbal. And he says, tomorrow they're going to kill me. And Birbal says, what happened to the king? Why does he behave like this? Then he feels very compelled to help him. So he goes to Akbar and he asks him, what happened? Why are you giving this kind of a sentence to the washerman? So the king says, well, he is inauspicious. I saw him and I fell and I got hurt. So they say that he's inauspicious and so he should be hanged. So Birbal says, well, Lord, it's very interesting that you saw the washerman and you got hurt in your jaw, got an injury. And so you say that he's inauspicious. But just look at that the washerman saw you and he got a death sentence. How inauspicious you would be, right? So then Akbar got back his senses. He understood what a stupid, foolish thing. That's how it is in this material world, right? Somebody's auspiciousness is not necessarily everybody's auspiciousness, but holy name is different. It's completely different. It brings about auspiciousness for everybody in the family. You chant. It's not just you, your family members, but it is the effect is for generations before and generations after. That's the impact of the holy name. That's how auspicious it is. The next we saw about Vidya Vadhu Jivanam. We said that the holy name is like the husband. And who's the wife? Wife is the transcendental knowledge. We saw that wherever there is holy names being chanted, knowledge comes automatically. The transcendental knowledge. We're not talking about knowledge of economics or knowledge of physics and chemistry and all that. That is okay. That's material knowledge. But we're talking about transcendental knowledge. And transcendental knowledge is knowledge of the scriptures. And that, how does one get that? It's only through chanting of the holy name, because transcendental knowledge is like the wife for who the holy name is the life. So wherever there is holy name, transcendental knowledge will come automatically wherever there is chanting of Krishna's names. So there is this story some of you may have heard, little bit true incident, which happened in the life of, we all know this founder of this big university, our Banaras Hindu University, was Madan Mohan Malviya. And he once went to a saint, and the saint is Srila Prabhupada's guru, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. So, Srila Prabhupada is the founder Acharya of ISKCON, and his guru is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. So, Madan Mohan Malviya, he was a pious person, and he goes to this saint with lot of doubts in his mind. So, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, he says, yeah, wait, I'll give you some time. You just go to the kitchen and, just do something is required there, some help. So please go there. So Madan Mohan Malviya was a big man, but he has humility. He goes there. He's humble. He goes to the kitchen, and there he sees this pujari who is doing all kinds of menial work there in the kitchen, all the time chanting Krishna's names. And what does Madan Mohan Malviya do? He just helps him out. All the time helping him and listening to him chanting the holy names. And then after quite some time, there is a lot of work in the kitchen, and Madan Mohan Malviya is finally called. Okay, now the saint is calling you. He's free to speak to you. So he comes now, and Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj, he asks, okay, what were your questions? You had some questions. And Madan Mohan Malviya, he folds his hand and says, no, everything is clear now to me. He says, I'm fine. All doubts have gone. Just by engaging in hearing and doing some devotional service, that's how transcendental knowledge reveals itself, right? That's how it is very, very, it's like a magic. You don't have to do something extra effort. It just reveals itself. Next, we saw Anandambudhi Vardhanam. Yes, so this is the fifth benediction of chanting the holy name. And we saw Ambudhi is an ocean, and an ocean which is increasing, ever increasing. Vardhanam is increasing. Like you keep some money in your bank account, it goes on increasing if you don't touch it for some time. Yes, and how much can it increase anyway? But this ocean of bliss, Anandambudhi. This ocean of bliss goes on increasing with chanting of the holy name. So we saw there are three kinds of Ananda. One is Bhogananda, which is of this, this pleasures of eating pizza, pasta. Maybe your children will tell you better about this pleasure. There is nothing that can beat it. But there is something higher than that, which is called Brahmananda, which is when you achieve some kind of a peace, right? Some of you all must be involved in chanting some mantras, Om, and some yoga, all of these, and you feel good about it. Yes, you feel good, you feel peaceful. Yes, it's kind of a bliss. So, Prahlad Maharaj, all of you have heard of little Prahlad, Bhakta Prahlad, who is a devotee of Lord Narasimhadev. He describes this very nicely. He says this Bhogananda, which is of this world, is like the pleasure, like a drop of water. Whereas Brahmananda is how much more water? It's the water that can be contained in the calf's hoof print. In the calf's hoof print. Okay, a calf, first of all, not even a cow. And the hoof print of a calf is so much, so maybe you will get half a cup of water. That much joy. But the bliss that we get by chanting Krishna's names is like an ocean. So you can take your pick. Which one do we want? Yes, Bhogananda, Brahmananda, or this is Premananda, where you have real joy of chanting Krishna's names simply because you have developed so much love and affection for him. And that's Premananda. And then we saw the sixth benefit, that is Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadanam. This is every step you can experience bliss. We saw in the last class that sometimes, when we have probably a big bash, we indulge in something so much, big party or something like that, and we say that no, enough, too many sweets. Now I'll not eat sweets at all, or I'll not watch movies anymore. So that is, you go on a bout of tyaga after a lot of bhoga. And then the tyaga gets too much to your head. And you say, no, enough tyaga. Now let's come back to normal. Let's be normal. Let's have some more bhoga. Right? So bhoga and bhoga and tyaga keeps going on. Right? So while this is going on, it means simply that you're not relishing, you're not enjoying, you're not getting that bliss. What is that? It's in gaps. But this holy name is not like that. It says that Pratipadam, at every step, it's Purna Amrita. It's complete nectar. And you can taste that nectar, Aswadanam, Purnamrita Aswadanam, Pratipadam. That's how the holy name is. And finally, one might ask that we are talking so much about my happiness, my happiness, my happiness. Isn't this selfish too? Yes. So it says that no, this holy name is completely purifying because it is completely selfless. It makes you selfless. This love for Krishna that develops is a kind of love which is not centered around you at all anymore. So a very nice story that many of you all may have heard here is about Krishna once getting a headache. Yes, Krishna once gets a headache. Sometimes it happens. And Krishna, he tells sage Narada that I'm having this headache. Please bring me some medicine. So sage Narada is like, tell me, what medicine do you want? So he says, please bring the dust of the lotus feet of my devotees. Dust from the feet of my devotees. So Narada says, what do you mean? Do you think anybody is going to give you dust from their feet? He says, yeah, that's my medicine. And so sage Narada, he asks different devotees, and everybody is like, no, this can't, we cannot give our dust, we will go to hell. And Krishna says, okay, go to the gopis of Vrindavan. Yes, gopis of Vrindavan have so much love for Krishna, very pure love for Krishna. So sage Narada says, okay, let me try going there also. And he goes there, and all the gopis, they gather around sage Narada, and he says, do you know Krishna has headache? And they are shocked. This is, what can we do? So Krishna says that dust of your feet is a medicine for him. As soon as he says this, all the gopis, they give their feet and says, stick. And they start scratching their feet. And they say, take more. Collect everything that you want. And Sage Narada is shocked. He says, aren't you afraid? He says, afraid of what? He says, aren't you afraid of going to hell? They say that, yeah, we know we may go to hell because of this. But what more can a hell be than Krishna's headache? What more hell can we suffer if Krishna is suffering from a headache? So that's the kind of selfless love that one can develop by chanting of the holy names, right? So that was the first beautiful verse where we saw Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtana. Now we go to the second verse. Let me put it on. Yeah. So let's chant the second verse of Shikshashtakam. नाम्नामकारि बहुधा निज सर्वशक्तिः तत्रार्पिता नियमितस्मरणेन कालः एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन्ममापि दुर्दैवमीदृशम् इहाजनेनानुरागः. So, if you remember, we had given a description of every verse of the Shikshashtakam and what it is actually telling us, right? The first one was teaching us the congregational chanting of the holy names. But in the second verse, we are seeing how one can realize one's ineptitude to take to this chanting. So what does this verse say? It says, O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. So, our inability to taste that. Let us try and focus on this now, a little on the second verse. So, what we have been seeing is that the holy name has so many benedictions. 7 we saw, and each of these were, they were incomparable benedictions, nothing from this material world. But even then, we don't have that kind of taste. Krishna has so many names. And why does he have so many names? Millions of names. He doesn't have 1 or 2 names. He has millions and millions of names. Why? Why does he have so many names? Simply because with each name, he actually reciprocates with an emotion of a devotee. Every name. I just will share the screen with you where there are some very beautiful names of Krishna here. If you can see here. There are many you can search, of course. But, these are some of the primary names of Krishna where he is one who whose eye is like the sun, the Ravi Lochana, or he is thousand-eyed, the Sahasraksha, or he is called Sarvadnya, he is the omniscient, or he is called Sarveshwara, master of all. Now these names, these kind of names are all absolute names. They are his names. But there are a lot more names which are talking about him being in connection with some devotee. Like, so for example, Partha Sarathi, when you take the full name, it denotes how he is charioteer of Partha, who is Arjuna. So in this way, there are so many names that Krishna has. And in each of these names, Krishna has invested his complete energy. What does that mean? It simply means that each of this name is as good as Krishna. So when you say Partha Sarathi, the name and Krishna, they're non-different. Yes, when you're talking about Govinda, Govinda is Krishna. Govinda and Govinda's form Govinda himself, they're not different. That's what this verse is saying. But what happens? But what are we saying? That even this verse is saying that even though Krishna has invested all this his energy into these names, somehow or the other, we don't have that kind of taste at all. We don't understand this potency at all. Now, once Vibhishana, I'll tell you this little story where Vibhishana, he wants to send two of his messengers to that side. Rama has still not come this side, and they're about to cross the ocean after building the Setu. And Vibhishana, he gives a paper, folded paper, to his messengers, and he says, keep this paper in your hand and you cross this ocean. And they say, how can we cross this ocean with a paper in the hand? They say, no, you just go to the bank of the ocean. The ocean will give you way. You just walk. And so these two messengers, they look at each other and they say, okay, let us try. They go to the bank, and lo behold, the ocean gives way. And this paper is there in their hand. Now they start walking, and then one of them says that, do you think we should see what's there in the paper? The other says, Vibhishana has warned not to open this paper, so let's just quietly walk. So they walk a little more, and they feel even more curious. How is it possible? Just look at this. The ocean has given way. What is there in this paper? There is some magic. We should know. So then they say, okay, let's check. And what's there? They open the paper and they see Ram written on it. And then they are shocked. They said, that's it? There's just this name, Rama? And the ocean falls on them. Yes, because they lost faith. That was going on only by the faith of Vibhishana in the name of Rama. But the moment these people lost the faith, it's gone. That's how much potent the word Krishna, Rama is. But unfortunately, we don't understand it. We don't have that faith, right? And that's our pitiable situation. So we go to the next verse. Prabhuji, do you want people to ask any questions in between? I'm okay with that also, if they have anything, or we can leave it to the end.
Yes, I think we could have them on the chat and periodically pick them up.
Yes, right. I mean, if anybody has anything to say right now, a question or a remark or a comment, you can always unmute yourself, put it up on chat. Okay. So now we go to the next verse, which is this verse is the essence, like Shikshashtakam is the essence, just as we would say, the cream on the milk is Shikshashtakam. But even from the cream, the ghee that comes, that is this particular verse, a very, very important verse for us. So let's read this verse and the translation, and then we will discuss about it. तृणादपि सुनीचेन तरोरपि सहिष्णुना अमानेन मानदेन कीर्तनीया सदा हरिः. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. So, this verse is such a small verse, but this verse, Mahaprabhu says, we should wear it like one necklace around our neck all the time, because it is talking about the highest quality that we as aspiring devotees of Krishna should have, and that is humility. And there's sometimes this necklace becomes like one thing to be proud of. Yes, so we may become, oh, I'm so humble. So we may become proud of being humble. But let's understand the essence of this particular verse. Just talking about 4 things, and all 4 are so difficult. Such a small verse, these 4 things are so difficult. The first one, it is talking about that we should think of ourselves as lower than the straw in the street, which is the grass. Have you noticed the grass on the street? When you step on it, when you trample, what happens? It stays that way. It doesn't come up ever. It stays that way only, right? Unlike other things, there are so many other, sometimes you have these toys where you keep pressing and they keep popping up like that. But grass is not like that. Yes, or a branch, it's not like that. It comes back. But this is so difficult for us to be, so submissive to somebody. That's the first quality of a devotee. And the second is about more tolerant than a tree. And we know, again, Mahaprabhu describes how a tree is. He himself talks about the tree. And he says, this tree, how is this tree? Of course, it tolerates the sun and the scorching sun and the rain. It does that. But it doesn't even protest when somebody is cutting it. Yes, somebody is cutting the tree. It doesn't protest. Neither does it ask for water when it is all drying. It doesn't say anything. It dries and finished. But at the same time, it can offer its fruits and shade to even the one who is going to chop it. It's so tolerant. It's so nice to hear this or even speak about it, but very difficult. Yes, and the third and the fourth are even more difficult. The third one says that one should not expect any kind of respect. But how are we? I'm talking about myself, most definitely. You want credit for even the things that you have not done. Forget about the things you have done. Yes, we expect credit for the things we have not done. So the law of karma, how it goes, that if you're expecting credit for things you have not done, then you're sure to get back blame for things you have not done also. Yes, that's how it works. And that's how this material world is. You look at it. Sometimes you feel you can get away by taking credit for what you have not done. And suddenly what happens? Suddenly somebody is blaming you for something which you have not done. But you protest so vehemently. How is it possible? How dare he or she say this to me? Yeah, we do this. I mean, I do this. So it's so difficult to not expect respect. And fourth one, even more difficult, is but give respect to everybody. Yes, not expect respect, but give respect to everybody. This is one thing I think, you can fail so miserably every day, no matter how much practice you get. But every day you can consistently fail in this. It's so hard. Yeah, in this, if we are somehow or the other able to do these four things, then Kirtaniya Sadahari, he becomes effortless. Then we can chant Krishna's names, not just for few minutes a day or few hours, but all the time. So let me take you to Chaitanya Charitamrita, 500 years ago, to this personality called Haridas Thakur. He is exemplified humility. Haridas Thakur was born in a Muslim family. Yes, and these days it's become so difficult to all this communal tensions that's there. So Haridas Thakur was born in a Muslim family, but somehow or the other he had taken up to chanting Krishna's names. He used to chant Krishna's names incessantly. I can't even tell you how many times he chanted, because you will think it is mythology. Yes, you will think it's not possible for him to chant so many names, because he would chant all day long. And the Nawab there, the Muslim king, when he came to know, he was so upset. He said, how is it, why is this man chanting Hindu gods' names? He was so upset. And he said he decided to punish him. And he says, let him be beaten up and killed and finish him off. So Haridas Thakura, he was actually dragged out of his home, and he was dragged into different parts of the town, in different market areas. They say that he was dragged in 21 market areas, And what he was done there, he was whipped in each place, publicly, humiliated. And all through, Haridas Thakur kept chanting Krishna's names, kept chanting Krishna's names. So much so that the soldiers of the Nawab, they became very upset that this man is not dying. If he doesn't die, then our Nawab will kill us. So they would whip him even harder. They just wanted to finish him as fast as possible. At that time, actually, Krishna himself, he takes all the beatings of Mahaprabhu. And Haridas Thakur, he could continuously chant Krishna's names without, uh, you know, without once feeling humiliated or offended. Instead, what was he praying? He said that, let these people who are doing this, no, it's very dangerous what they are doing, because Krishna may be upset, Krishna may be angry. So he said, please, Krishna, please forgive them. He was constantly asking for forgiveness for them. And not just that, he then pretended to be dead. He stopped breathing so that they would be happy and think that now they're safe. Haridas Thakur was then thrown into the Ganga. And then Haridas Thakur swam and came back. That's when the Nawab realized that this is not an ordinary person. This is a messenger of Allah. That's what he thought. So important for us to see Haridas Thakur's humility that is personified here, as to how chanting Krishna's names is possible only when you have developed this kind of humility. But we can try. Of course, it is a very, like I said, each one of these 4 principles, each one being like a grass, being tolerant like a tree, or not expecting respect and all the time giving respect to others, is something which is very difficult, and we think it is so impractical in this material world. But this is something which is like the key to chanting Krishna's names all the time. This is what Mahaprabhu has given us. All right. So now we come to the next verse, verse number 4. So this verse is going to talk about the problems that we have, the obstacles that we have, so detrimental for our progress. न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितां वा जगदीश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवताद् भक्तिरहैतुकी त्वयि. So this verse, it says, O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. Again, 3 things which all of us want. Yes, who doesn't want money? Who doesn't want a good wife or a husband? Who doesn't want followers? Yes, fans, all those likes on Facebooks. Who doesn't want? Everybody wants. Yes, on Facebook we want, on I don't know how many, Twitter is there, Instagram is there, everywhere it is there. Only for this, we want this, right? It is so difficult. But Mahaprabhu is saying that none of this is going to be of any use to me. What I want is only your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. So the word causeless here is so important. Causeless, ahaituki. What does that mean? It's an important word, ahaituki. It simply means that whatever I am doing, whatever my japa, my devotional service, is only meant to please Krishna and not for wealth, followers, or women or men, however the case be. Not just necessarily one way. This, is possible when we realize what actually the potency of the holy name is. It's like Krishna's names are called Nama Chintamani Krishna. Chintamani means what? Means whatever it touches, it makes it gold. This holy name of Krishna. So I heard this very nice thing. Chintamani. We break it down as chinta and money. Right? So we feel that we have to worry only for money. But no, this Chintamani is different. This Chintamani is telling us that Krishna's holy name makes everything into gold. Means what? Whatever we touch, or whatever the holy name touches, is auspicious. It satisfies all your desires in the real sense. Yeah, it obviously doesn't satisfy the desires that we spoke about here. In the sense, they are not meaningful desires. Not that it doesn't satisfy. They may satisfy, but it's not what one should look for. I'll tell you a little story here. All of you probably have heard this, where there's this old woman who has been working hard all her life. She was staying alone. She stayed in a small hut near the forest, and her work was every day to go to the forest and collect some firewood. She would carry it on her head and go to the town and sell and get some little money, and she would bring whatever food she wants to eat. Maybe a Parle-G biscuit. We see that nowadays. So that's all the money she would earn. So her life was tough. So one day she goes to the forest and she has collected all this wood, and she has kept it on her head, and she's walking, and she trips, and all this wood falls on the ground. All these, yeah. And suddenly, what happens? Krishna appears in front of her, and she sees Krishna, and he says, "My dear old lady, you've been working so hard. Is there any which way I can help you?" So what does the old lady say? "Please, can you carry these twigs and put it back on my head?" Yes, that's our situation. I hope you got the message. Yeah, that's our situation. Krishna's names can give us more than that. But what do we want? We want the same things over and again. This burden back on our head, back on our shoulders. Give me a job which will make me more stressed. Give me a big house which will make me always in anxiety. Yes, give me a big bank balance so that I can keep checking if it's there, not there, and this and that. Give me children so that they can become such a cause for worry. What will they do in future? All of these things we keep asking, we keep putting back the burden on our heads. Instead, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends a haituki. Yes, this chanting of the holy names should be unmotivated by any of these, but only seek to please Krishna. That's the potency of the holy name. Yes, somehow or the other we get stuck up in the same loop, and we don't understand that we can not ask for more, but we can ask for the right thing. Yeah, we can ask for the meaningful benediction, which is causeless devotional service. All right, that was about the 5th verse. Now we go to the 6th verse, and 6th, 7th, 8th. These I'm going to just touch upon very brief. नयनं गलदश्रुधारया वदनं गद्गदरुधया गिरा पुलकैर्विचितं वपुः कदा तव नाम गृहणे भविष्यति. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your holy name? So this, if you remember, we spoke about sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, and then prema bhakti. So verse number 6 onwards is very clearly the bhava bhakti, where what has happened? Bhava bhakti means what? Where now there is this bud of love that has blossomed, that's entered, that's come, that's appeared, this bud. And what's that bud? What potency does it have? It has the potency of now uh, letting us actually uh, take darshan of Krishna in the truest sense. So bhava bhakti is the state of emotion where now you feel that when when will I actually feel all of these emotions, which means that the devotee, the bhakta, is already feeling that kind of an emotion. Bhakti Vinod Thakura, one of so he's also one of the very prominent acharyas in our Gaudiya Sampradaya. He sings a very beautiful song. He says, Kabe habe bolo se dinamar. He says, when will that day be mine? Says aparada guchi shuddhana me ruchi kripa bale hoye hridoye sanchar. He says, when will that day be mine, when all my aparads will go, when all my offenses, I keep offending. What kind of offenses? I keep looking down at devotees, or I keep saying that, hey, what is this chanting of the holy name? What will I do it again and again and again? What is all this? He says, all these offenses, when will they go? And when will pure devotional service of bhakti or uh, taste for the holy name, when will it arise? And that's exactly the stage of bhava bhakti. We saw in the previous one of the previous verses, we saw namnamakari bahudha nija sarva shakti tatrarpita niyamita smaranena kala. We saw that your name is so potent. And we also, it continued with saying that there is no rule to chanting the holy name. There's no rule, which means what? You can chant wherever, whenever you are. But there is the rule. What is that rule? We still talk about the rule. What is that rule? We say that we have to minimum at least chant so many rounds. We talk about 16 rounds. That's minimum. That's the rule. But maximum, there is no rule. Yes? And that's the stage of bhava bhakti here. When it goes to that extent, when you're always chanting Krishna's names and you're lamenting, why is it? Rupa Goswami, another very a prolific writer and a very exalted devotee of Krishna, he says that I don't know what is there in this 2 syllables Krishna. I don't know what is there, what kind of potency it has. I feel that I should have millions of ears and millions of tongues. I don't understand the nectar that it has. And our situation is, we also don't understand what it has. Yes, but we don't understand. And we don't care for even the 2 ears and the 1 tongue that we have. There's hardly any attention that we can invest in it. But it is at Rupa Goswami's stage that they understand what is there actually in the holy name, in this just Krishna. So much potency, Rupa Goswami says, is there. And that is bhava bhakti. When you begin to feel so, this verse here, which is saying that tears start flowing and my voice will choke up just by chanting Krishna's names. Now many a times we see sometimes people they end up imitating. Why do we sometimes cry? At least for Matajis to cry is very, very easy. Very easy. Yes. Anything that has happened in the morning or the previous day, and while chanting, all that comes out. He told this and she told that, and you start crying. And we think, oh, I'm in Bhava Bhakti. No, that's very sorry. But I have to, explain that to myself also. That this is not Bhava Bhakti. This is all our emotions, which are completely, kind of cemented with our material emotions, yeah, material feelings, and that's in no way bhava bhakti. Bhava bhakti is a very, very high stage when you're actually taking Krishna's names and you're choking up. You're taking Krishna's names and your hair stands on end. Not that you see a lizard and your hair stands on end and you screech Krishna. Yes, that's not bhava bhakti yet. But yes, there is hope. And then we go to the verse number 7, where you have reached this bhava bhakti has gone to this level, this extent, where you begin to feel separation from Krishna, where you begin to miss Krishna so much. Right? So this verse, it says, युगायितं निमेषेण चक्षुषा प्रावृषायितं शून्यायितं जगत्सर्वं गोविन्द विरहेण मे. Oh Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. Right? This is how a devotee feels who has come to the stage of bhava bhakti. He begins to miss Krishna and he begins to cry in the stage which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed this. When he was here, he didn't show as in a display, but he felt that. Yes, there are very beautiful paintings, if ever you could see, as to how the tears are flowing from Mahaprabhu's eyes like rain, and how he's so much in separation, he's missing Krishna so much. That's an altogether different stage. And then we come to the final verse, which is the pinnacle. It's the pinnacle of love, which is prema bhakti. Yes, we began with sadhana bhakti, then bhava bhakti, and now we are going to prema bhakti. आश्लिष्य वा पादरतां पिनष्टु माम् अदर्शनान् मर्महतां करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विदधातु लम्पटो मत्प्राणनाथस्तु स एव नापरः. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. So this verse is actually the mood of Srimati Radharani. Yes, Srimati Radharani was the topmost devotee of Krishna. Why? Because her love is unconditional. It's not the kind of love that we have in this material world. In this material world, we may confuse this kind of love to be something from this material world, but it is not so. Because here in this material world, love is what? Is something where we are incomplete and we try to complete it. We try to fill it up. We try to fill that hole, that gap. But here in the spiritual world, the unconditional love is, they have everything and they want to give everything to Krishna. So that is complete surrender of all that they have, without the sense of feeling incomplete in that way. They feel the complete has to be given, which is Atmanivedanam, completely surrendering to Krishna. Yes, and this, of course, this, of course, is said it's at the highest level. Like I said, Srimati Radharani's emotions for Krishna, the feeling that the gopis and some of these very elevated devotees they have for Krishna, who don't care whether Krishna is is always nice and smiley for them, or he is sometimes rude by giving them troubles. They never ever give any kind of a blame to Krishna. They never do that. In fact, the way it begins is always whatever we receive as a blessing, we feel that we don't deserve it. We totally feel that, who am I to deserve this? But when something wrong happens with us, the feeling is, oh, I deserve some more actually for the kind of person I am. That's the kind of feelings that these devotees have. It begins with that and it goes on to say that, let the whole world say that Krishna doesn't exist, but for me, he is my unconditional Lord. That's the kind of faith and love that is displayed at the highest level of Prema Bhakti. Okay, so that's the end of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shikshashtakam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shikshashtakam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Now we can go for some questions if you have. Yeah, I'm sure.
There is one in the chat, Mataji.
Yeah, I saw this last question. Sushma Purohit Mataji is saying that very difficult to understand this last verse, right? Yes. So the last verse, how do we understand? To the extent now, how can we understand to begin with? To begin with, we understand it in this way, that disappointments in life, reversals in life are inevitable, no matter what. They are inevitable. But how do we respond to them? Are we going to look at them as, where is Krishna? I'm chanting his names. And how can he be so rude to me? How can this thing happen to me? Yes, if you respond like that, then we will not go to the next stage. Yes, of course, Krishna protects us. But the problem is we don't know what is protection. We don't know what is best for us. Krishna knows what is best for us. Yes, if you look at history, the Pandavas, they didn't go through a nice, merry-go-round. It was a roller coaster ride. Yes, it was full of difficulties. But never once did Krishna leave them. Krishna was always with them. And we all know the story of Akshaya Patra. Yes, this Draupadi had this Akshaya Patra where, she could actually feed unlimited amounts to everyone, and then after that she would eat, and then Akshaya Patra would not produce anything. And it so happened that sage Durvasa visited them while they were in the forest along with the 60 disciples. And the sage Durvasa was deliberately sent by Duryodhana because he knew that it would be hard for them to serve so many people in the forest. They were staying in the in the exile. But Yudhishthira, he was so confident that, oh, we have the Akshaya Patra. He welcomed Durvasa. And Durvasa said, yeah, we are going to come for lunch, all of us. But we'll just quickly go take bath and come back. And Yudhishthira says, Draupadi, come on, quickly finish, cook everything for them. And Draupadi says, how can I do it? I have already eaten. What are you saying? How can I cook now? Nothing will come out from Akshaya Patra. And that's when Krishna comes to their rescue. Yes, they are in complete, because they're scared. Now what will sage Durvasa say? They were so scared of displeasing him. Now we would say that, se mangwa lete hain, Swiggy se mangwa lete hain. Yes, but they were in exile. And what happened? Krishna came and he says, Draupadi, I'm so hungry. And Draupadi said, you're teasing me? What can I serve you? I have nothing and I'm scared that Durvasa is going to come with 60 disciples and you are coming here and telling I'm hungry. So Krishna says, you show me the Akshaya Patra. And he sees there one grain of rice stuck somewhere and he takes that and he puts it in his mouth and he says, I'm so full. And the moment he does that, sage Durvasa and his 60 disciples, they all felt like they have eaten Raj Bhog. They all start burping out and they said, we're so full. And they said, now how do we go back to Yudhishthira? What happened to us? We can't eat and Yudhishthira will be so upset. So it says, chalo bhagte yahan se. They ran away from there. They took bath and they escaped from there. That's Krishna. That he puts you in difficulty, but you should not let go of his hand. Yes, call out to him and he will protect us. We may feel that, this is difficult, this is tough, I cannot. But the more we practice it very, very consciously. And for that, we have to keep chanting Krishna's names. Yes, Mataji? That's right. Yes, Piyush Prabhu has written nicely, believing and keeping faith on Krishna, irrespective of the situation we are in tough times. That's true. It's hard, but that's why we need company. Yes, we need devotees around us who can support us in that.
हरे कृष्ण माता जी, धन्यवाद करना। आपने इतने अच्छे से समझाया माता जी शिक्षाष्टकम को। दैट मीन्स ये एक गागर में सागर एक मुहावरा है, वैसा है ये श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु ने पूरे अपने सारी बातों को एक एसेंस के रूप में छोटी छोटी एक बॉल जैसा बना बना के उस पॉट में डाल दिया, बहुत बड़ी बड़ी बातों को छोटे छोटे वर्ड्स में। और लेकिन जब हम उन्हें खोलते हैं तो एक बॉम्ब जैसा बड़ा बड़ा उसका ऐसे निकलता है।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल सही बोला आपने। दिखने में बहुत छोटे छोटे लेकिन एक्सप्लोजन है एक में खुद में।
जी, बॉम्ब जैसा बहुत सारे मीनिंग्स आते हैं उसके, लेकिन उसे खोलने वाला कोई चाहिए और उसे कोई सुनने वाला चाहिए। जो आपने वो सब कुछ दिया, हमें वैसा सुनने लायक बनाया और आपने वो सुनाया, इसके लिए बहुत बहुत थैंक यू माता जी।
हरे कृष्णा।
हरे कृष्णा माता जी।
हरे कृष्णा माता जी।
हरे कृष्णा। हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी।
Mataji, during these days, how to become like a tree? Someone who is stoning us, and we have to give the fruit to them. Like tree is giving, if you are stoning the tree, fruits is coming out of that. How is it possible during these days, material age and
so you're talking about that Trinadapi Sunichena verse, isn't it?
Ji, Mataji.
Ji. I understand. It's very hard. So I will tell you a little story to understand this better. Once there was a snake which used to be taptha, snake, and it used to all the time hiss at people, and very very dangerous snake. So it so happened that sage Narada came across this snake, and he put his hand on the snake, and the snake became a devotee, and then decided that yeah, I will not harm anybody, I will not hiss at anybody. वो पूरा ऐसा नम्र बन गया। तो थोड़े दिनों बाद नारद जी आए और पूछे इस सांप को कि कैसा हालचाल, सब ठीक? तो ये सांप वही बोलने लगा जो आप बोल रहे हैं अभी, कि अरे आपने तो मुझे भक्त बना दिया, लेकिन भक्त इस टाइम पे भक्त बनना कितना मुश्किल है। पता है क्या हो रहा है मेरे साथ? ये सारे बच्चे जो है मेरी कितनी मजाक उड़ाते हैं, दे आर टाइंग थिंग्स ऑन मी एंड मेरे पे पत्थर फेंक रहे हैं। तो तब नारद जी ने क्या बोला उनको? बोला मैंने आपको क्या बोला था? I told you not to bite anybody, but I didn't stop you from hissing. है ना? तो ये डंक मारना जरूर मैंने आपको रोका था, लेकिन इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि आप you won't even hiss. So the point is that one should be humble, yes, especially with the devotees, and that is a very important quality. But that doesn't mean one becomes लो ऑन सेल्फ एस्टीम। वैसा नहीं है ना, वैसा नहीं है। जो भगवान का भक्त बनता है, ऐसा नहीं है कि वो फुलिश बनता है, वो जरूर। यस प्रभु जी।
थैंक यू माताजी।
हरे कृष्ण माताजी।
हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण माताजी।
हरे कृष्ण माताजी। हेमा माताजी।
Yeah, the way you explained it so good, and I love the way you told about all the stories. My goodness, it's really very experienced lady, your Mataji. Really, the way you're explaining with the story, I really loved it. There's no question I wanted. I had a big list also. I don't want to ask any questions because the way you explained with the stories and all those things, it has gone inside my brain. That's all. And into my heart. It melted into my heart. Thank you very much, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Aishwarya here.
Hare Krishna.
Very good. See, I am from Mumbai, so right from my childhood, there's a Sri Ram temple near my house. So right from my childhood days, during the Ashad Ekadashi, uh, I have been listening to the Varkari group's Abhang.
Mm.
Yeah, so it is so soulful.
Yes.
So I could relate myself to the sixth verse of Shikshashtakam, which is like Nayana Mashru. I really can feel it now. It's so touching. I just can't, you know, if I listen to Panduranga's song, I just can't hold my tears. I rather at times I just I mean I won't say avoid, but most of the times I just can't stand there for long. I mean listening to them, and then I would like be like my whole handkerchief gets soaked.
Hare
Because I don't know. I mean, my my bua, after looking at me, I mean, my dad's sister. Yeah. So she was like, probably you would have been in Punarjanma, you would have been, you know, actual bhakta of Panduranga, that you're still remembering him, and you know, you can recollect those days. I mean,
Thank you
those
for sharing that.
the Sant Tukaram's and Namdev's abhangs are so soulful, so touchy. I
That's
mean,
true.
instantly you can connect to their bhava.
Yes.
Okay, so I just can't hold back my tears, and every time, every day I read Shikshashtakam myself in the
Oh,
morning.
so
So the very sixth, I really choke up when I read the sixth sloka, I mean verse. So and thank you so much. I'd like to like it's so nice to hear you from the previous session and today that a teacher will always be a teacher, and you have explained it so nicely. Though I have heard previous lectures on Shikshashtakam, you were really outstanding.
Hare Krishna.
And
Hare Krishna Mataji.
your,
Hare Krishna Mataji. This is Jayanti here.
Yes.
It was excellent the way in which you explained, and I'll tell you very frankly, I was first doing a Bhagavad Gita advanced course by ISKCON of HSR layout. This started last August. I'm into it just for the past 1.5 years. This is a plus point of Corona. You know, we say Corona minus means no. I'm telling you, really, lot of spiritual upliftments have taken because of
True,
it.
true, true. Very
And when I started chanting the mala, I'll tell you very honestly, I'll tell you,
true.
108 now, how time it will take 5-7 minutes or 10 minutes. But now I have increased it to 4 mala. Because in Janmashtami, they wanted us to give a oath. You give the number of malas and you stick to it, irrespective of any. And nowadays, I see I do 4 malas and I have put a oath to myself. In another 1 or 2 months, I'll make it 6. But now, really, I enjoy from the bottom of heart. I am telling you, I enjoy. And then I am thankful to the whole team of ISKCON. Because every week we have a topic, we have sharing. Even reading Bhagavad Gita. In fact, when I was 6 or 7 years old, I have chanted Bhagavad Gita. I won in the competition and all. But that is a different thing, only sloka, participation and the prize.
True,
But now, especially the way in which all of them, we are really blessed to be associated with you. And your this thing was really, it was an icing on the cake today. But so well explained. Thank you, one and all. God bless you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, I think there are no more questions.
A lot of gratitude and thanks to Mataji. Wonderful class interspersed with such nice stories, weaving it into a concept which is well entrenched in everybody's minds. So, and Mataji, you heard it firsthand. So, thank you so much for sparing the time that you did and making it a very impactful one for everyone here. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So I will take your leave now. Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
thank you so much. So, what we will do next is we will do the chanting. So if we can.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta.
Hare Krishna. Just a small request before we get to Nasima prayer. Whatever we discussed today on Shikshashtakam, if everyone can summarize that and put it in their respective WhatsApp groups on some of the takeaways, points that really stuck with you, points that you really liked. If you can share that over the WhatsApp channel, respective Bhakti Vriksha WhatsApp channel, that will be really helpful, because there are people who may not have been able to join the session. They can actually, look at the points, and they also can get inspired by this. So that will be really useful. So we'll move towards Nasima prayer. Prabhuji. Anybody who wants to sing the Nasima prayer?
Pinti Mataji, she has opted for it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Hare Krishna. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladadayine. Praladadayine. Hiranyakashi Parvakshaha Shilatangkanakalaye. Shilatangkanakalaye. लंका न खालाए। इतो नरसिम्हा परतो नरसिम्हा, इतो नरसिम्हा परतो नरसिम्हा, यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिम्हा, यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिम्हा, वही नरसिम्हा हृदये नरसिम्हा, वही नरसिम्हा हृदये नरसिम्हा, नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपदे, नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपदे, तव करकमलवरेण अद्भुत श्रृंगार, दलिता हिरण्यकशिपो तनुभृंगा, केशवधृता नरहरि रूपा, जय जगदीश हरे, जय जगदीश हरे, जय जगदीश हरे, तव कर कमल वरेणा अद्भुत श्रृंगार, दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृंगा, केशवधृता नरहरि रूपा, जय जगदीश हरे, जय जगदीश हरे, जय जगदीश हरे, जय नरसिंहदेव नरसिंहदेव नरसिंहदेव, जय नरसिंहदेव, जय प्रहलाद महाराज, प्रहलाद महाराज, प्रहलाद महाराज, जय प्रहलाद महाराज, जय जय प्रभुपाद, 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 नित्य गौर हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल, नित्य गौर हरि बोल, हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय, जय श्री नरसिंह भगवान की जय, जय श्री भक्त प्रहलाद की जय।
Thank you so much, Mataji. Was that your son or daughter?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Was that your son or daughter who joined?
Yeah, she daughter.
Okay, okay. Very nice. Very good.
Hare Krishna karo.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
धन्यवाद.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, सभी को धन्यवाद प्रणाम।
So, yeah, I think